Welcome back to another episode of Guitar Talk with Todd. Here is the audio edition of a portion of my interview with the great Charlie Daniels. This was originally published in print and online in 2019, and many of you have asked to hear some of the audio, so here you go. It was a real honor for me to speak with Charlie. He was a super great guy, and I sure do miss him. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel and enjoy my interview with the great Charlie Daniels. So, Charlie, I know earlier we were talking about some songs off the new album, songs in the key of E, particularly tracks like Mudcat, which I love. That has a huge Robert Johnson and the blues and Going to the Crossroads influence and that type of thing. So I'm curious about your songwriting process for just a song like that and songs in general.
Most of my songs start with a guitar riff. Some of them start with a lyric line or something, but most of them start with a guitar riff. As I sit on my bus here, I've got a guitar in a drawer under the couch about 3 feet from me. I got one in the house and attached to my neck, my favorite chair, and I'm at any time to pick one up. And if I think about something, and start fooling with it, if it's something I want to keep, I'll turn my phone on, my little recorder on my phone and put it up and down so I remember it. This riff that starts Mudcat off, I started playing this riff, and I couldn't find anything to go with it. I couldn't, I had it for a couple of years, I guess, and I kept trying to, I'd get my guitar out once in a while and start playing that riff and come up with something. I just finally had this idea about this old blues player named Mudcat, to make it unique. I don't know if anybody ever played with Robert Johnson or not, but I thought kind of telling the other side of the story a little bit was pretty neat. So once I got to thinking in that direction, I just went on and got her done.
So it sounds like for you, the inspiration can strike at any time, and you just record whatever comes to mind on your phone wherever you happen to be.
My iPhone, it's just a little iPhone thing, and I'll have my wife to hold up my guitar. I usually practice on like a Les Paul, and it's not plugged in, and I'll have her hold it up there to catch enough of it. I've got slews of ideas on my phone, that little recordings, little 30-second recordings of things, and once in a while, when I'm kind of in a creative mood, I'll go back through and listen to those things and see if I can do the same thing I did with Mudcat, come up with an idea for a song.
Okay, so going back to some of your earlier material, like say The Legend of Wooley Swamp, that has character in it like Lucius Clay, which is very similar to Mudcat. So you have a real knack for creating these characters. It's just great stuff. Let's kind of talk about that one a little bit. How did Lucius Clay come to be?
Well, the name basically came out of my head. It just sounds like a name of somebody that lived back in a swamp.
Yeah, it does.
But I wanted to write a story. I wonder, for some reason, this way back, it was 1980 or so, I wanted to do a song, a ghost story. I thought, boy, it'd be, there's all kind of ways you could, kind of like Mudcat is, kind of a ghost story sort of thing. What would I do? I tried to find an Indian legend on a mountaintop or something to go with, and I could not find anything. And then I happened to think about this old place down in North Carolina. It's called the Wooley Swamp. It's a real place, and we used to hunt there when I was a boy. We coon hunted, so we went at night. It's a spooky looking place. Nobody actually lived there, but it looked like the kind of place where somebody could, and where somebody could actually, where this sort of thing could actually happen. So I don't know. I just got thinking about it, and I came up with this Kegel Boys thing, and then it just started happening after that. Once I get the idea and I get the skeleton,
yeah,
it kind of, then I can go with it. So I've carried song ideas around me for 14 years.
Wow. Well, yeah, that's always great. It sounds like you've got a whole library there of just tons and tons of material that you've collected over the years that you've worked on writing.
I was sitting on a city bus in El Paso, Texas, years and years ago, and that's where Pancho Villa used to run around down in that area. And I think I wrote a song about Pancho Villa, so I started a song about Pancho Villa, but I could never finish it. And 14 years later, I was writing a song about Billy the Kid, and I thought, wow, this fixed it. So anyway, I finished it. I'm constantly doing that. Old ideas that stick around. If they stick around your head, they're pretty good usually. So.
That's great, Charlie. Now, I know this new album is very blues-based, but blues has always ran throughout your music. You can hear it in everything you do, and I know you've done entire albums in the past that are just dedicated to that genre. What do you remember specifically about the first time you ever heard the blues and when it first caught your ear?
So many down in North Carolina where I come from, so many of the, almost any guy of any age you came across knew a little bit on a guitar. They may not know much, but of course when I first started playing, first I learned my first 3 chords on a guitar where I could play a whole song. I was ruined. That's all I wanted to do. I didn't want to do anything else. And anybody that knew one more chord or one more lick than I did, I would go and I'd bug them about it. But about everybody knew a little bit. Maybe they didn't. Maybe it wasn't even a whole song, or maybe it was one song, or maybe it was this or that or the other thing. But, it was like everybody knew a little bit. And you're always, when you're from the Southeast, you're always exposed to the blues. It runs in our blood, I do believe. People of my generation, anyway. I don't know about the younger generation. But when I think about my basic thing, when I start out writing a song, if I'm not careful, it's easy to fall into that thing where everything becomes blues, a 12-bar blues thing, because it's easy to write to. It's kind of formed in your mind. You got a verse and you got a verse and a little bit of a chorus, and you go back to the verse and so on. It's just easy to fall into that. But I think it's ingrained in most people, especially my generation. We all, whatever else was happening in the South, there was always the blues. It was always B.B. and Albert, and, the older guys. Of course, the older guys never got the Blind Lemon and all those guys. They never got played on the radio. B.B. was the first blues guy that I remember playing on pop radio, having pop hits and stuff. And he had a song called "On My Word of Honor." I remember they played on the pop station back in the 50s.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And but it's always there. It's always in the undercurrent. It's always in the church music. It's always in the, it's around, and it just becomes a part of you.
Well, I know we were talking about that earlier. This album has such a fresh but raw vibe to it. I mean, you could really tell that you were doing exactly what you wanted to do. Nothing was contrived, and it has such a hungry feel to it, especially for an artist that's been around as long as you have and had as much success as you have. That's just phenomenal to hear. It's great to hear that you're still having that hunger and that drive to put out music like this.
This album is something that I've wanted to do for a long time, and I realize that. I realize it's kind of a cathartic sort of thing to me, that I wanted to play an album that was not, there was no pressure on. There was no time thing I had to get it done at a certain time, that I could put whatever I wanted to do with it and actually jam our way through it, not have to rehearse the songs, but go in and say, hey guys, do this, put your thing in this, you do what you want to do in this, and let's all play what we want to play. I'm not going to tell you what to play here. I'm not going to tell you anything but the chord structure. So here we go, and just sit down and keep doing it till they felt good.
Right.
And when James Stroud's playing bass and James Brown's playing drums and Charlie Haywood's playing bass, it don't take it long. When you're doing funky stuff, it don't take it long to feel good. So it was it was a real fun album to record.
Well, the vibe on it definitely comes through, that it was very fun. And as far as I know, I think this might be the first time there's ever been an album where everything's in one key. I think that's a great idea. And I mean, it doesn't even really sound that way. Everything sounds fresh, and a lot of times, when you play songs in the same key, it starts to get that same feel in a row. But I don't hear that on this album. Everything, you almost don't realize they're all in the key of E until you read the title.
Well, it just seemed to, as I said, as I was writing, it just seemed like everything kind of, they were comfortable to sing in the key of E. And of course I did all the vocals, so it just seemed natural song to key. Plus, E is a wonderful guitar key. It's open strings, and I mean, if it wasn't for the key of E, it wouldn't be any blues.
Right, that's true.
that open string stuff, because everybody started with that open string, type thing, and different tunings and stuff, and 12-string guitars and all sorts of stuff like that. But E is a great blues key.
Right. Now, I mean, this album is still very new and fresh, but have you any thoughts of doing future stuff with these guys, or?
Well, we got kind of caught in the cracks on it. We released it before Christmas when all those stations had frozen their playlist, for Christmas music, and so we kind of put everything off as far as promotion was concerned until after the first of the year. So we're just now getting into it, and we're fixing we're gonna, I don't know if Americana Radio does singles or not, but we're fixing to at least promote a tune on there called "The Way We," that's how we roll.
Oh yeah.
I've been doing it on stage and getting a really good reaction to it, so we're gonna kind of see what happens to that. We'll be our folks will be promoting it. We'll see what happens to it. If it's successful enough, we'll go back to another. I'd love to write another. We might even do something in the key of A this time instead.
Yeah, right. Another good guitar key.
Yeah.
Right. We were talking about what an awesome band you've got here backing you up on this album too. I mean, Charlie Hayward, of course, on bass, and James Stroud on drums, who we were talking about, is just phenomenal. And then, of course, we have Billy Crane playing along with you on guitar. But I mean, it's just phenomenal the way those guys lock in, particularly James and Charlie, as far as the rhythm section goes. It makes a huge difference.
A rhythm section, the bass and drums basically are going to set how a record feels. And you can have the best drummer and the best bass player in the world, but that don't mean that they can play the blues.
Right.
I mean, there's a lot of people that can play great stuff. They're wonderful musicians. They can play great stuff. But when you get to playing like the album we're talking about, it's more feel than anything else. That's the feel, that you're nodding your head, patting your foot to it. And that if that's not happening between the bass and drums, it ain't gonna happen. And that's what made this album. So James Stroud, the drummer, kind of set the, I let him set the tempos. And of course, we need to go up or down, we would. But I mean, he grew. He's got a feel for a groove. There are certain people that have that. I played with very few drummers in my life that have that talent for finding the exact tempo that a song is supposed to be at. And James has got that. And it's just, when he starts it off, and Charlie Hayward fell in with the bass, Billy and me, all we had to do is just, fall in and get it done.